Thank you for attending. We will now continue with the student body president candidates. We have Mark Ciavola and ColeTurner, and again moderated by Dr. Abigail Aguilar.
All right, this is going to follow pretty much the same format with one difference to it. The opening and closing statements, instead of 2 minutes, will be 3 minutes for each of you. But otherwise, it's going to be the same format in terms of the rotation, going back and forth. They're going to alternate between the opening and closing statements and then alternate within the questions. There are 8 questions, and so it'll balance out nicely with that. With the first one, the opening statement, we start with Mr. Ciavola. You have up to 3 minutes. Your opening statement, please.
Great. Sure. I'd like to first thank everyone for coming out today and everyone who is watching at home. I want to thank Dr. Aguilar for hosting and Director Lujan and her team for putting this together. This election, we can all sit up here and say this is an important election. They're all important because it truly matters who represents you in your student government. A lot of students don't understand how important CSUN is to their college experience, but with a $1.2 million budget funded with student fees, everything we do is important and everything we do affects students. Over the last year, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve as your student body president. We have done some amazing things. We promised to fix the way CSUN operates. We promised to take a pay cut, 25% pay cut. We promised to restructure how our positions were filled to make sure we were operating as efficiently as possible and focusing on some key areas, especially student involvement, campus life and entertainment, marketing, et cetera. We also wanted to focus on engaging students. And so parties in the PIDA have 3 times the turnout they used to have. We brought back bus rides to home football games where we hosted tailgates. We did 2 Rebel road trips, the traditional football one in the fall, but now we added a basketball one in the spring. We fought for students on parking issues, having parking fees remain the same until 2015. We stopped a $6 per credit fee increase. We fought against mandatory health insurance. The list literally goes on and on and on. And we kept every promise that we made to students. And it is my hope with your support, we'll be able to continue working on all of those issues, continue fighting for students over the course of the next year, and work on improving even more things going forward that we weren't able to get to in the past year, or really things we've found over the past year that still need some work. So whether you're looking at tuition and fees and parking issues and that sort of representation, or you're looking at campus life and working with different departments on campus and affecting students' lives directly, we've managed to cover just about every possible issue that has arisen and certainly that gets talked about in these elections. And so hopefully tonight you'll hear some specific plans and some specific accomplishments from both Mr. Turner and I look forward to a ripe debate. Thank you.
Good. Mr. Turner, your turn. Up to 3 minutes. Opening statement.
Yes, thank you. First off, thank you all for coming out again. Thank you, everyone who will be watching this later online. Just like to tell everyone a little bit about myself. My name is ColeTurner. I'm 20 years old. Been born and raised in Las Vegas. Lived here my whole life. Grew up loving UNLV, and that's part of the reason why I want to do this, is because my passion for UNLV is as great as anyone's could possibly be. Some of the things that we would like to work on for this school is, or if we do get into office, is to kind of spread the love for UNLV and build a sense of community on campus rather than a place where students come and leave and really don't have that moment on campus where they talk or they realize how much they love their school and love their alma mater. Our goal, if we are in office, is for every single student at UNLV to have something on campus that they enjoy doing, an event that they can come to and thoroughly enjoy and want to have more of it, something that they're going to be able to talk about when they graduate. CSUN is something that has a great effect on every student at UNLV and has the opportunity to change lives, introduce them to people that they never would have met before had they not come to this, make memories for the students, and that's one of the goals of our ticket if we do get put into office. Thank you.
Okay, good. The first question. We're going to talk about the branches of CSUN and improvements you offer. the students in this. Now with this question, we're going to start with Mr. Ciavola. Mr. Turner will go second. 2 minutes for each answer, 1 minute for the rebuttals. Question number 1. As the head of CSUN, it's your responsibility to ensure that all branches of CSUN are performing to standards and working efficiently. Identify some problems that you've seen in CSUN with regards to this in this past year or in recent years, and state specifically what you plan to do to improve upon these weaknesses. Mr. Ciavola, up to 2 minutes.
Sure. Well, last year when I ran for this position, one of the things that I noticed with the different branches, first, we had an executive branch that supported an 8% tuition increase. I thought that was insane at the time. It's what prompted me to run for this position, and I'm proud to say that over the last year, the executive board has fought for students on a myriad of issues in which the student voice really hadn't been heard before. This includes going to bat pretty hard on parking issues, going through the Board of Regents to stop mandatory health insurance, fee increases, things like that. We noticed in the Senate that we had a Senate that was run fairly unprofessionally, and I sought out a running mate who I felt could run the Senate properly. Lots of experience with Robert's Rules of Order and procedure, lots of experience leading people, and I did the same thing this year in Senate President Pro Tempore Jasmine Hicks. And so I'm proud to have the most qualified person on my ticket for that position. And then for vice president last year, we selected somebody who had been in CSUN for a while, knew CSUN in and out, understood how the directorships worked, the training that needed to be implemented, sort of some crossover from the previous administration as far as continuity. And so this year I went out and found someone else who has experience within CSUN, because if you don't have CSUN experience, you can't do the job. And so I'm very proud to have Jordan Jackson as my vice president. And I think selecting those people and having the most qualified people possible on your ticket puts you in the best place to address any of the challenges that arise throughout your term. And I think we've done that in all 3 areas. I think we have improved, and I think CSUN is a better place this year. Thank you.
Mr. Turner, up to 2 minutes.
All right. As Mark said, some of the issues that have taken place in the past few years, such as the e-board who supported an 8% increase for students, is obviously a problem that we have all seen in CSUN. I don't know that there's any person in here that would stand up and say that I support student tuition going up. If you are, I don't know how in touch you would be with the students and what we feel and what we want. Some of the other issues that we've seen in CSUN in the past year are an election that has gone wrong, and another election that has gone wrong, and then a debate of which Senate to seat. And that was one of the things that has gone wrong, and something that we would need to work on to kind of get better, or to flow better if we do get into office. Some of the things as far as putting the right people in place to handle those situations. We have a great VP candidate in Dustin Durbin who is experienced in running organizations already. He has as much experience as anybody at the position has had. And Gil Revelorio has been in Senate at UNLV for 2 years and another year at CSUN. There are people who have already had the experience and are going to be able to build on that and lead others through what they have already experienced and know. Thank you.
Mr. Ciavola, 1 minute rebuttal.
Sure, this is the part of debates I don't like, because I do respect Cole, and Cole works for me now in CSUN, and I was very proud to bring him on board last year. But we need to have some facts here. Using the term "we" to say that we saw what happened with the previous executive board wouldn't be true, because Mr. Turner nor his vice presidential running mate had been to any meetings last year. His vice presidential running mate still hasn't been to meetings. None of them have ever been to a Board of Regents meeting. Yet here we are today, and we're trying to determine who's most qualified for the position. The fact of the matter is there is virtually no experience to my left when it comes to these issues, and my ticket has a ton of experience because we've been doing it for the last year, and in the Senate even before that. So I think that's what matters in this election, is the experience to make things happen. And God forbid we faced those challenges last fall with somebody who had no qualifications.
Mr. Turner, 1 minute.
If qualifications are such a big deal and the experience is what he is running on, is that experience, then the things that happened last semester never should have happened. If we are able to stand up here and say that because I've been to X amount of Board of Regents meetings or because I have sat on Senate for years, that doesn't make it okay and make you an all-knowing person. The election last year falls on E-Board when it comes down to it and who was appointed to which positions. Not saying that they did a poor job, it was just the overall execution of everything that faulted it and gave CSUN one of the worst images it's had on campus in years. As long as I've been here or even known what CSUN was, this is the worst that I've ever seen it and the worst people talk about it as a whole. So if we're going to base our candidacy on experience, then the experience in the past year hasn't been the greatest, and that's not something I would run on. Thank you.
Okay, question number 2. This one has to do with the Nevada Student Alliance and specifically the issue of faculty pay. Now with this one, Mr. Turner, you're going to go first with the answer and with the rebuttal. 2 minutes for the answers, 1 minute for the rebuttal. Question number 2. The student body president is a member of the Nevada Student Alliance, which is a group consisting of the student body presidents from each of the Nevada higher education institutions. Recently, the NSA, the Nevada Student Alliance, announced that they support prioritizing the reinstatement of faculty pay from the 5% cut they received in 2011. What's your position on this issue, and how will you work with the Nevada Student Alliance and the UNLV administration to stand for students on this issue? Mr. Turner.
Well, as for standing for students, if the 5% tuition or pay raise for the teachers is going to come out of our pockets, then I'm not going to make that a priority of the NSA to do, because that is not something that we should be encouraging, is for tuition to pay, or students to pay higher tuition. In order to get my point across that that is what I don't support, then it would be my duty as student body president to go into the meetings with the other student body presidents and make sure that that isn't our priority, that that is not what we sit down and say that we want to do. In terms of working with the UNLV administration and making them see our point of view, I'm in full support. I think teachers deserve higher pay. I do. I just don't believe that the students should be the ones funding it. And with that, thank you.
Mr. Ciavola, up to 2 minutes.
Sure. Well, the students fund everything. And that's the problem here. Because if the state has extra money to pay the faculty, then they have extra money to keep tuition low and fees low. And if the state's priority, or the administration's priority, or the Nevada Student Alliance's priority is to increase faculty pay with additional revenue from the state, then it is important to understand that the additional revenue coming from the state only exists because we pay more tuition that goes to the state, that gets sent back to us, that then goes to faculty. This is the circle. And this is the problem with that issue, because we can all sit here and say, yeah, we'd love to have teachers make more money. I would like everybody to make more money. The problem is it's a zero-sum game. And tuition has gone up 50% in the last 7 years, or 100% in the last 7 years, and 50% since '09. And so students are bearing a disproportionate share of that sacrifice, and faculty's 5% pay cut off six-figure salaries is not the priority for students. Now, you know, Cole can make it seem as though I have not made my views known on this, but anyone who knows me knows that I don't hide my views, and I tell just about anybody who will listen. And I've got to tell you that over the last year, you're not going to find the administration being very friendly to the idea of abandoning that position, because it is their #1 priority. I've had that conversation with President Sumatras several times, including after his State of the Campus address, or State of the University address, where he made that known to the faculty and staff, and all of the subsequent conversations since then, where that remains the #1 priority of this administration and the Board of Regents, and the Nevada Student Alliance, which is supposed to represent students. And so it is important to always stand up for students, but in order to do that, you have to understand how the system works. I do. That's why I'm more qualified for this position.
Mr. Turner, 1 minute rebuttal.
I understand the administration wants to be paid more. I think, as you said, everybody wants to be paid more. That wasn't my point in my speaking earlier. I'm sorry if that's how it came across. My point was that as the student body president, it is your duty to go to every NSA meeting, every single one that you can be at, and represent the students and make sure that they know, and you express your point to the other student body presidents, that that should not be our priority. In no way or form should our priority be to raise or our first priority, or any priority really, to raise tuition for students who pay teachers and staff more. Thank you.
Mr. Ciavola, 1 minute rebuttal.
Sure. It is important to have a voice with the Nevada Student Alliance. It's important to have a voice with the Parking Committee and with the President's Advisory Council, and to be at all of the Senate meetings, and to be at all the Senate committee meetings, and to be at the Rebel Yell Advisory Board meetings. There are many, many, many things that the student body president does and is a part of and has a voice in. And sometimes those things conflict, and you have to do what makes the most sense for the students you represent. The NSA meets roughly at the same time as our Senate meetings. It's not always possible to be at every meeting. You send delegates in your place if you can't. But the reality is the Nevada Student Alliance is made up of far more than just UNLV representatives, and not everything that's good for UNLV is good for other places. And so when we disagree on an issue, it's important to be able to come back and agree on other issues where we can work together. But in the meantime, you have to be representing the students here at UNLV all the time. That is this job.
Okay, good. You mentioned the committees that you will work with, and in fact that's going to be the topic of the third question. Dealing with the various committees you'll be a member of and prioritizing among them. Now with this one, we're back to the initial rotation. Mr. Ciavola, you go first with the answers, 2 minutes for the answer, 1 minute for the rebuttal. Question 3. The student body president is a member of various committees around campus: the Parking Committee, the Special Fee Committee, the Rebel Yell Advisory Board, the Student Technology Advisory Board, and the President's Advisory Council, to name a few. If elected, which of these committees do you feel deserves the most attention and input from the student body in the next year, and why? Mr. Ciavola, 2 minutes.
Well, I think they're all vital, but certainly the issues that impact students directly take precedent. The Parking Committee has been certainly one of my most important priorities over the last year. The fact that we were able to stop weekend enforcement of parking, I felt, was huge. That we have advocated for additional student parking, hopefully behind the library. That we've been involved in decisions from which colleges get to buy reserved spaces to whether or not there will be reserved spaces. You know, it's something that affects every single student who comes here and drives here and has to park here. But over the last year, you know, we've dealt with a lot of different issues. Last summer, the Rebel Yell Advisory Board was an important committee to be focused on, because we were dealing with an issue of constitutional authority in who could appoint the editor-in-chief, and also in finding alternative funding for the Rebel Yell, which saved students $111,000, which has allowed us, in part, to pass a constitutional change that hopefully, once the students vote on it and the Board of Regents approve it, will lower their fee to CSUN, saving students $250,000. You wouldn't be able to do that if you weren't focused on these things as they come up. And so the President's Advisory Council is another important one, although the topics in those meetings tend to revolve more around faculty and staff issues. It's important to have a student voice there so that people remember that there are, in fact, students at this university and that they need to be represented also. So those are certainly the big ones. But, I mean, there's so many that as issues come up, you know, you have to switch and make others your priority. As I said, you know, we were listing them off a moment ago. I heard earlier in one of the debates, you know, 25 hours a week they'll spend up in the office, and the reality is I'm lucky if 60 hours a week is enough to get done everything that I need to get done in addition to going to classes. And so I want to make sure that people don't underestimate the time commitment that's involved, especially with as many boards and committees that you need to sit on. Mr.
Turner, up to 2 minutes.
All right. As far as the committees, and if you were to order them, or what was the most important, something our ticket has highly focused on, that Mark has also focused on, was parking. One of the committees that we should always be on and always have a student voice on is parking. There are more staff spots than there need to be, and that's one thing that we have kind of vowed to fight for as students, is to convert staff parking spots to student spots is in as many ways as possible. We understand there are difficulties against it. It's not like we can walk in there and say this is what we want and it's going to happen. It's something that we will lobby for, that we will be at every meeting voicing our opinion for, if we have to get more students to come in to help us and show that this is what students want, to kind of get the point across to the committee. That is something that we would like to do, just to let them know that parking is something that needs to change on this campus. and that's one of the ways that we would like to go about doing so. The next one for us would be the President's Board or President's Council. We'd like to make sure that there's always a student's voice present when the president or whenever anybody on this campus is meeting. We want the students to be represented in every committee, every meeting possible. I understand that it's not physically possible to be at all of the meetings, but that's what we have an e-board for. That is why we have such a great Senate, is so that we can have people always going to meetings and representing the student body and the student voice for what we want to get done. Thank you.
Mr. Ciavola, 1 minute rebuttal.
Sure. Well, we've had many parking committee meetings over the last year, and not one of Mr. Turner's ticket mates or himself have been at any of them. I understand when you run for a position, you suddenly care about all the little things that are going on campus, but the reality is students are being represented, their voice is being heard, and we've been at those meetings. You know, it astounds me, these elections, they tend to be like that. I mean, you can't help it, but, you know, I like to look at people and say, what did you do before you had the position? And before I was ever in CSUN, I went to Board of Regents meetings. I was involved on campus trying to find out what was going on and represent students because I wanted to do that anyway. That's how I ended up in CSUN. It wasn't the other way around. I didn't wait till I had the title to do those things because that's the hard work. If you're not willing to do the hard work when you don't have the title, I mean, what makes anybody think you're going to do it when you do? And I think that's important in an election like this.
Mr. Turner, 1 minute rebuttal.
Pointing out that, or if it was a shot directed at me, saying that we haven't tried to help out around campus or do things on campus is something that is a faulty statement. All of us have been involved in philanthropies on campus. We have done things to better community on campus. Maybe we haven't gone and sat on committees yet, but we will do something because we recognize that that is something that students need and that is something that we need as well. And we are going to fight for that in every way we can.
Okay. Question number 4. This one, an issue both of you have raised, parking. Now with this one, we go back to Mr. Turner going first, Mr. Ciavola going second. Question number 4, parking is one of the biggest issues facing students at UNLV. Both of your platforms include improving parking for students on campus. Please identify what your specific plans for parking include and what you are going to do to enact these changes. And then in your rebuttals, please explain why you believe students should support your plan over your opponents. Mr. Turner, you go first, 2 minutes.
All right, well, as our plan for parking, there is no short-term solution to gain 500 more spots where it's going to be easy for students to park with easy access to every building. It's not a realistic thing. In the long run, there's a master plan which calls for 9 parking garages where at some point this campus will have easy access to park all over campus where it's not going to be a hassle for students. It's going to be something where they can come up and just have a spot and get to class. Our ticket, myself, everyone on it, our goal for short-term parking is going to be at the parking committee meetings, to be able to fight and represent students, to get as many spots as possible, every single location we can, to be able to make sure that fees for parking don't go up. If there's any way that we can save students money in how they're paying, then that's something that we would look into to do. There are different spots on campus that would be available, or at least in our opinion, from what we have examined, that staff does not necessarily use as much of, so that we would like to fight for to gain those spots. The main of them being behind the library. We would like to focus really hard on picking up student spots behind the library or eliminating the meter spots behind the library so that students can begin to park there and have that easy access to campus where so many students are in the CBC classrooms, and it would make just an easy route for them to park and get out and go to class within 5 minutes rather than having the 20-minute trek across campus or the 10-minute trek, whatever it is. It's just an easier way to get things done, and those are some of the few things we'd like to fight for.
Mr. Ciavola, up to 2 minutes.
Okay, so I heard keep parking rates from going up, did that. I heard focus on getting more student spaces behind the library, doing that. I heard be at parking committee meetings, do that. Well, I made your job real easy, Cole. Here's the reality of the parking situation. There are just as many upset staff members as there are upset student members as a percentage of the parking spaces on campus. The staff isn't happy either. And if we think that we're going to live in a world where we can go and say we're going to turn all the staff spaces in front of the student union into student spaces, which I ran on last year and found out was completely impossible because of traffic concerns on Maryland Parkway. If you think that we can get rid of staff spaces and turn them into student spaces and the staff isn't going to say anything about it, I mean, it's a fantasy world. The last parking committee meeting that I was in, or 2 meetings ago, I had a faculty member straight up ask if we still had students park at Thomas and Mack. And when she was told yes, she said, well, then students can walk. That is the attitude in those meetings. And so you have to fight for what you can get, and you have to have realistic solutions. Sure, the parking lot behind the library is something we've been working on. We stopped weekend enforcement. We got parking rates to stay the same until 2015. We got one of the lots by the library that was an after 7 staff parking rule. It was the only one on campus that was after 7. We've made an official recommendation now to change that to 5, so at least the policy is uniform around campus and students aren't getting surprise tickets. We've made tremendous progress when it comes to what we can actually control with parking, but if your goals aren't realistic, it doesn't matter what they are. Hell, let's just have free parking for everybody then, if that's the case, because it's just as impossible as flipping staff into student parking. And all students would understand that better if they were at those meetings, because that is what we've run into time and time again over the last year when we're fighting for those policies.
Mr. Turner, 1-minute rebuttal.
We understand it's a fantasy world to dream for every staff parking spot on campus to be flipped. Never going to happen. Everyone here understands that. There are things we can fight for and that we have a chance to be able to switch. I understand that he is going to argue that it's impossible to do, that the staff is so strict on things, that they want this, that we have no say. There is an amount of dedication that we will be able to go to and that we can push to with support behind us, that they will be there to help us out. It's not a type of thing where you concede immediately, you fight for it. And once again, I understand he has fought for things, but this isn't something you give up on. When there are more students coming here every year, you don't concede parking spots that should be for students. Thank you.
Mr. Ciavola, 1-minute rebuttal.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I never stop fighting. We haven't stopped fighting. We haven't given up. I park on this campus, too. I've got a stack of tickets this big. If anybody would like to see them, you can come up to my office. They're all paid, thank God. But I go through the same things that students go through. It's ridiculous trying to find parking. But we haven't conceded a single spot on this campus. You know, we lost some spaces behind In-N-Out because of the transit center that we opposed. But they just moved the staff over there, which goes to show you that they value the staff spaces more than the student spaces. And part of that is because the staff pays twice as much for those spaces. One of the other things that we've talked about doing is instead of having reserved spaces, have reserved lots. That way there aren't so many reserved spaces sitting empty and people can share a lot with a fewer number of reserved spaces. But again, we've been working on all these things. I've heard nothing new. I've heard nothing that suggests that Mr. Turner would do anything differently than what we've done, and we've already accomplished quite a bit on parking over the last year, and we're proud of that.
All right, good. Question number 5 has to do with the marketing table and looking at improving on it. With this one, we are doing Mr. Ciavola first, 2-minute answer, 1-minute rebuttal. Mr. Turner will go second. Question number 5. The marketing table is a new CSUN program designed to market CSUN to students each day on campus and inform them of what CSUN is doing. What do you feel are the biggest strengths and weaknesses thus far with the marketing table, and how do you plan to improve the marketing table next year if elected? Mr. Ciavola, up to 2 minutes.
Sure. Well, the marketing table was my idea last year as a way to get CSUN officials out in front of students. In the past, the office hours that we're required to put in every week were spent upstairs on the 3rd floor of the student union, where students would never find us, they'd never find their senators, they wouldn't know how to get a hold of us. And so through my experience with student organizations on campus and seeing how successful marketing tables are for different organizations, we decided we would move those hours out to the campus where the students are, give them a face-to-face experience with the representatives. And I feel like it is definitely an improvement over last year. But like anything else, you look and see what works, what doesn't work, and you try to improve on that. I think they need to be far more interesting. I think we need to have music at them all. I think we need to move them around campus more frequently. I had always had sort of the plan of having, this rotating table that goes all around campus and hits all sections of campus, and that really hasn't happened this year because we've run into a lot of challenges with staffing and things like that, and those happen. But again, you see what works, what doesn't work, and you try to improve on that. And I think overall, the marketing table has been a great success. We've used it to launch our free lunch with the Student Body President program, which allows for me to take students on my dime, not your dime, the student money, but on my dime as part of my salary. I take students out to lunch and get that one-on-one, face-to-face, or 5-on-1 or 11-on-1, whatever it happens to be, to find out how we can better serve them and what their issues are and make sure that we're always on top of that. We use it as a table to market our events that are going on, whether it's Party in the PIDA, the elections, scholarships, which are huge. And year over year, we went from 58 scholarships to 250, and we're hoping to even beat that this semester. So we're very happy with what the marketing table has done, but there's always room for improvement, and we're looking forward to making those improvements going forward. Mr.
Turner, up to 2 minutes.
In terms of improving the marketing table, I think that is all that there is for that table. It sits on campus, and for the hours that senators spend out there working it, there are not nearly enough people who come up there. And if they are coming up there, it's for the free things that are being handed out. The marketing table is meant to express what CSUN is and what CSUN is doing and what is upcoming, not just to hand out a water bottle with CSUN's name on it or chapstick with CSUN's name on it. So in order to improve it, I believe that the way that you go about doing so is to make it not necessarily an event where students are supposed to come and hang out, because it's very unrealistic to expect students to come and hang out to listen to some person that they've never met get up on a stage and speak. The way that a marketing table would be improved is more so for something to be going on there. Like if you still set up the tent is a great idea. The table, it does give you an opportunity, but it is a more outgoing staff that has to be taking place, or you force it upon the staff to work and to actually get to converse with the people out there, not just sit there and let them walk by and wait for people to approach you. And then the other way that you market the CSUN, or market CSUN, and the marketing table succeeds is you have things that people are going to be interested in to come up to the marketing table for. You don't market CSUN to market CSUN. You market CSUN by marketing the events that you're going to put out there. And that's the biggest way I think you can improve the marketing table, is by having events that market themselves and market CSUN through the event rather than just marketing CSUN to market CSUN. Thank you.
Mr. Ciavola, 1 minute rebuttal.
Sure. Well, I think marketing CSUN is an important thing. I think you not only have to tell students who we are and what we do and how we spend their money and how they can take advantage of the resources that we provide, but we do market events. Like I said, whether it's the election or we have a concert coming up at the end of this month, things like that. But, I've spent a lot of time at the marketing table. I've spent a lot of time talking to students there. I've spent a lot of time talking about what CSUN is and what it does, and a lot of the accomplishments that we've been able to achieve over the last year on behalf of students. I've spent time there with any number of CSUN people who are outgoing, who do engage the students who walk by, whether it's to complete a survey or get their opinion on an issue that's going on. But at all the times that I've spent at that marketing table in the last year, I have never once seen ColeTurner. And so that's disturbing, because this is the face-to-face way that you, as a member of CSUN, can actually talk to students. And Mr. Turner is a member of CSUN and should be there talking to students.
I have been at the CSUN marketing table, more so in the fall than I have been recently, but I was at the CSUN marketing table in the fall. While I was there, President Ciavola was working on a campaign. I understand that. Everybody has jobs. It's what you do. But I have been at the CSUN marketing table, so don't know calling me out works for that. I talk to people face-to-face in a lot of aspects, whether it is in the SU meeting new people, or if it's working through the rebellion, which is something that I've done that has opened as many doors to me as any single position has ever done. I've met more people on this campus and been able to talk to them about what CSUN should be doing for them, rather than sitting at a table handing out their water bottle with CSUN's name on it.
Okay, question number 6. This one is more generally about the CSUN programs and improving them. With this one, Mr. Turner, you'll go first. Mr. Ciavola, second. Question number 6. CSUN has come up with several new programs and events this year, like the Marketing Table, Coaches Caravan, and CSUN Bucks, and has also continued some older, time-tested programs such as Parties in the PIDA, Scholarships, and the Rebel Road Trip. In your opinion, what's been the most popular and effective CSUN program this year, and why? And what is the program you think could use the most improvement, and how do you plan to make it better if elected? Mr. Turner, 2 minutes.
Okay, well, one of the most successful things that I think we've done as CSUN was the Rebel Road Trips. The road trip to San Diego had a few students on it. It was a football game. It's a lot more difficult to get people to go support something that hasn't necessarily been as successful. The Rebel Road Trip for basketball was one of the most successful things that I have seen CSUN do. A way to keep improving that is just to make sure that the Rebel Road Trip for both sports are advertised as well as possible. A lot of that is done through the social one-on-one thing as well as social networking. You make sure that every person at least knows it's going on and knows that they have the opportunity to do so. One of the things that has improved but that I think we could do a better job of with is Party in the PIDA. I think that we should use that to market ourselves a little bit more as well as, or besides just giving them free food. We have a line out there and that'll be claimed as a great success. But when students just come to pick up food and then leave and they don't really get involved, that is not something that necessarily builds camaraderie on campus or builds a community that people want to be involved in. It just gives them a meal for the day, which is a great thing, and I would plan on continuing that. I just think there are other ways to build that sense of community through Party in the PIDA.
Mr. Ciavola, up to 2 minutes.
Sure. Well, I think the parties in the PIDA have been great. They've affected 750 students. It's certainly a way to get out in front of more students than a Rebel Road Trip, even though the Rebel Road Trip was amazing. And you know, Cole did a great job on that trip with me. It was a fun trip, and this spring we had over 100 students that we brought up to Reno. And so, you know, I think ultimately, though, the programs or services that benefit the most students are the best. And when you're benefiting 100 or 700 out of 24,000, there's a lot of students you're not touching. And so for that, I have to say that my favorite thing this year at least was our campus-wide Wi-Fi program. This was a $500,000 proposal that did not use a single dollar of student fees from this year to finish building out campus-wide Wi-Fi all around campus in academic areas and some outdoor areas as well. This truly does affect every single student that goes to this university who for too long has had to deal with subpar Wi-Fi. And we are very much looking forward to that being done by the end of this year. That's how you impact the most students possible. Parties are great. We need to have fun, absolutely. My job is not about parties. Everybody wants to make this about campus life. It's not. We have a director of campus life. Cole would make a very good one. The one we have now is a very good one. But it's not what the job of student body president is. It just isn't. And so it's about representing as many students as possible, trying to touch each of their experiences here on campus, and going to bat on the issues that affect all of them, like tuition and fees, like mandatory health insurance as a condition of enrollment. I mean, these are the things that a student body president deals with, not free Raisin Canes.
Mr. Turner, 1 minute rebuttal.
I'll pass on this one.
Mr. Ciavola, 1 minute.
Sure. So we'll go back and talk about the campus life aspect of things. You know, parties in the PIDA have been run by our campus life director, John Jersey Goldman, and my vice presidential running mate, Jordan Jackson. He's taken that on as his project. I've been at every one of them because I push the free lunch program heavy at those because, again, there's 700 students there. And if I walk away with a stack of free lunch things this thick, it's a good day, you know, and I can look forward to meeting a lot of students. But this is yet again another example of something that Mr. Turner has decided to largely skip. Now, sure, he's picked up Raisin Canes a couple times and brought the food for the event, but not every time. and he's not at the events. And so if we're going to sit here and talk about which events are good and which events are bad, I think you need to actually be at them and be participating in them so that you know what works and how students feel. And Parties in the PITA, we have a lot of happy students, and a lot of them hang out. They listen to the music, they meet new people, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay, good. Question number 7 has to do with the budget. With this one, Mr. Ciavola, you'll go first, Mr. Turner second. Question 7. CSUN works with over $1 million of students' money each year. The first order of business before CSUN spends any of that money is to formulate the annual budget. What changes do you plan to make to the budget if elected? Please justify your answer and explain in detail the changes you would make. Mr. Ciavola, up to 2 minutes.
Sure. Well, to be honest, I don't think I would change the budget from where it is right now. We are in the works to lower the fee, which would result in about $250,000 less coming into CSUN, because frankly, we take too much of your money. And if we don't need it to run CSUN, we shouldn't take it. The executive board before me ran CSUN perfectly fine, even though I disagreed with some of what they did. They certainly didn't need the money because they did it for $850,000, and we have $1.2 million. And we've been able to free up $250,000 of that by rearranging funds and finding new funding for the Rebel Yell and the USA Today New York Times readership program, by cutting $70,000 worth of salaries, things like that. And so we would have less money in my future vision, but that's okay because we have extra money this year that we're now forced to find ways to spend this on students, even though we've done as much as we could possibly think of doing. And so the individual allotments for each departments, I think, are fine, but the money we've saved won't come from those departments. They come from other expenditures that simply won't be there next year. We did $250,000 for scholarships. That was an increase of $50,000. We improved the marketing budget so we could do more marketing our events and getting out to students. We increased the campus life and entertainment budget so that we could do more fun things around campus. You figure a little more for scholarships, a little more for entertainment. But at the end of the day, we've been able to save so much money from the actual operations of CSUN that we're very proud to be able to reduce that cost to students by $250,000. And then all of the numbers that we had this year, I think, should carry over because most of them were needed. We didn't have to rearrange too much money other than for the year-end concert, which we're happy to do. And I think everything worked pretty adequately. So I would do the same thing going forward.
Okay, Mr. Turner, up to 2 minutes.
The only thing that I believe that if elected we would re-allot money to in terms of the budget, I don't know that I would take the marketing budget as high as it is. I believe that that marketing money can be spent on or put into the campus life budget. I know Mark isn't as fond of having that much money spent on campus life because there are other ways to benefit students, and I acknowledge that. But as far as marketing CSUN, if you're going to market CSUN, the best way to do it is through the things that you can put on with the campus life events. The $250,000 for scholarships is, I think, at the perfect point. If you go higher with the scholarship budget, then you are taking away the amount of money that can be allotted towards other students, and when it all comes down to it, the money in CSUN is meant to benefit all students, not just the people receiving scholarships. So I think that $250,000 for that is about the peak of where you can go. Any higher, and it almost becomes unjust to all the other students on campus because they won't be receiving as much as they could be from CSUN. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, 1 minute rebuttal, Mr. Ciavola.
Sure. So this year we did add more money to campus life. We jacked it up from $125,000 to $250,000, the same amount as scholarships gets. And so you figure with $1 million budget going forward, that would represent half the budget right there in scholarships and campus life. How much more do we want to increase it? It comes down to what can we do in the course of a year, right? And we've done a lot of events, and the fact that CSUN has worked as hard as it has to put on all of the events that we've put on really makes you wonder if we can put on more events. So we can make them bigger and better. There's no doubt about that, but the reality is the most we've ever got to our events is 750 people. 1,000 people to an event last year or a year and a half ago. The engaged populace on campus is not a huge number because the average age is 27. People have jobs and families. They commute. They don't stick around at night. And so what do you say to the other 23,000 students that you want to spend their money on parties that we're throwing on campus when it has to come out of some other account?
Mr. Turner, 1 minute rebuttal.
The events that are drawing 700 students or 100 students aren't events that appeal to the entire campus. In order to get out to the entire campus where you're going to have a couple thousand students show up, you have to be willing to spend money. You have to be willing to have the concert on campus with the big name band that everybody knows about, and even if that's not their favorite music, they're going to come to just because it's a free concert on campus. Something that we as a ticket are very in favor for. We're not shy to spend $100,000 to have a good concert on campus. Something that majority of people, or the e-board, Mark Ciavola himself, has been against the concert on campus this year for the entire time. In meetings, as far as CSUN goes, he has spoken out against having the concert on campus. And that is one thing that we believe that we should be spending our campus life budget on. We should be able to reach out to more students through the campus life budget than we do currently.
Okay, good. The final question, the 8th question, has to do with each of your platforms. And with this one, Mr. Turner, you'll go first, Mr. Ciavola second. So question 8. Cole, your platform includes textbook reform, improved campus life, and improved parking on campus. Mark, you're running on making CSUN work more for students, representing students on issues like healthcare, tuition and fees, and student outreach. For each of you, please explain your specific plans for these areas, and then discuss why you feel they deserve more attention than your opponent's platform.
All right, the first one she listed for us was textbook reform. Our specific plan for it, the best way that we see fit in doing so, we would design a website for students at UNLV where when they're registered for classes, they have access to the website. They would be able to buy, trade, and sell books with each other for the classes they need rather than having to go to the bookstore and pay full price to the bookstore. This benefits the students who are buying it because they're most likely going to be buying it for a less price than they would be in the bookstore. Benefits the students who are selling it because they are being paid more than they would be if they were selling back to the bookstore if the book just sits in their locker or their closet, wherever they're putting their books. The other thing that we'd like to do is we'd like to expand the textbook reserve program in the library. For the books, there are a lot of books that aren't even available for your class or anything along those lines. So that's one of the things that we would like to work for is, at least for the general education classes or a little bit higher up, that there are books available at all times for the student to go in there. The next thing would be campus life. We want to do that through large-scale events. We get that the Party in the PIDA and all the little things that we do on campus are very key, and that is huge in building a community on campus, and so we do want to prolong that. But we're also going to push on-campus concerts as much as possible. We want those big-scale events that everybody on campus is going to hear about and want to attend, not just the Party in the PIDA where they come and get free canes. The improved parking, as we've touched on so much throughout this, our platform on that is that we're going to fight for every single thing that we can for students on campus. It won't be letting spots just be taken away, and that is something that we will be willing to do everything in our power to do, is just to be at every committee meeting to protest any opportunity of losing spots for students.
Mr. Ciavola, up to 2 minutes.
Sure, well, I mean, my plan is to continue what I've been doing. I've been fighting for students against tuition increases, against fee increases. We stopped a $6 per credit fee from going through. That was repackaged as a $3 fee. We stopped that. Repackaged as a $2 fee. We stopped that. We stopped mandatory health insurance as a condition of enrollment. You know, we have fought on parking policies, as we've already been over. There's so many of these issues in which students would much prefer us to take care of it for them. They pay us to do that job. And that's the job we do. And so whether it's those issues or let's talk about campus life for a little bit, we need to do right by all the students that we represent. The comment was made that I oppose the concert. I don't oppose a concert. I don't oppose a concert with a big name band. When you see one, Mr. Turner, please let me know. Because currently that's not what we're putting on. We're putting on a concert that we could logistically put on in 5 weeks. That's what we're putting on right now. And so while I'm looking forward to this concert being a success, I would have preferred more time so that we could have put on a bigger and better concert with a band people do want to come see, possibly for fall, etc. But again, it's all about realistic. It's all about realistic goals. Last week, Mr. Turner and I had a debate in which he said textbook reform, we've got to lower the prices. Who doesn't agree with that? I agree with that. I said, we're not going to get the textbook prices down. We have to go and maybe expand the program with the library, the textbook reserve that we have. Now today, we've abandoned the lower the prices thing. His vice presidential running mate in the last debate said it wouldn't work anyway. And now Mr. Turner likes my idea to expand the library. So, you know, it's all about realistic goals. And the goals that we set last year were all accomplished. And we're looking very much forward to continuing working on those for the next year.
Mr. Turner, 1 minute rebuttal.
As far as our lowering textbook prices, we did not, our plan has never been to go to the bookstore and demand that they lower the prices. Our plan has been to give students an alternate method to buy books and save money from each other. Never have I said that our goal would be to go to the bookstore and demand that this book be this price. And therefore I have not abandoned anything in textbook reform. The other thing that Mr. Ciavola likes to point out is that he stopped mandatory healthcare reform, or health insurance on campus. Every student body president would do that. That's something I would personally fight for that. I know if there's a student in this room who believes that if you should be required to purchase health insurance to come here, it's not realistic for every student to do that, and it's going to hurt the campus overall. Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Ciavola, 1 minute rebuttal.
The number of student body presidents who went to the Board of Regents meeting to oppose that health care, 1. The number of CSUN presidential candidates that went to that meeting, 1. This is an important election. I think if we're going to focus on campus life, then we need to apply for the campus life directorship. The job of student body president is all-encompassing. It's every issue that faces students on this campus. Issues that Mr. Turner has not even heard of yet. And if Mr. Turner thinks that you can walk in and you can say, we need this parking, and we need this, and we need prices lower on textbooks, and we're going to throw $100,000 concerts twice a semester, and that's going to work, and when everybody comes back and says, that's not possible, that's not legal, that we can't do, we don't have enough money for that, and we've been down this road 6 times already, the response, go rebels, isn't going to be enough. You need somebody with the experience. That is me.
Okay, for the finale, before we finish, I want to say congratulations to all the candidates. It was good. I like robust debate. That's why I agreed. Jessica asked me, I'm sure, for that reason. Debate is good. It's been fun. And just as a side note, it's good to know the issues haven't changed since I was in college as an undergraduate, but that's just my aside. For the closing statements, 3 minutes again. Mr. Turner, you go first this time. Mr. Ciavola, you will go last. Mr. Turner.
All right. First off, thank you all again for coming out here and listening to us debate and kind of seeing our side on the issues. To start off, Mr. Ciavola has said that he would support a concert that we put together. As far back as he has gone in CSUN, he has opposed having a concert on campus. I don't know if it's because there hasn't been a proposal worthy of his standards or what the reason for that is, but it's always been against one. As far as him stating that all we focus on is campus life, it is true to the extent that students want to know what we are going to do in campus life. They want to see what we think can benefit it. But it is not true, and that is all that we plan on doing. That is not what we focus on internally and in terms of that we step into office and that is going to be our only goal for CSUN is to improve campus life. We understand that there are things to do on campus, such as fight against outrageous implementations of things like mandatory health insurance. We know that we are going to be at every NSA meeting fighting for what is going to benefit the students the most at our college, more so than anything. We're not going to be the e-board that is going to miss meetings and miss an opportunity to represent our students, as Mark has in the past. He has missed NSA meetings. He has complained about the priorities that have been put on for student body president, or for the NSA's, or he's complained about the order of the NSA's priorities, but in reality, when that was being decided in the fall, he was not there to help determine what it should be for the CSUN, or for UNLV students at least. If you are going to go vote this week, make sure that you take into consideration everything you've heard today. Be informed before you go vote. Don't just go vote for the sake of voting. Thank you very much for your time today.
Good. And Mr. Ciavola, up to 3 minutes, closing statement.
Sure. Well, once again, I'd like to thank everybody here and at home watching, as well as Dr. Aguilar, who has been an exemplary moderator for this debate. So you have a choice. This happens every year. It's very simple. You can choose to support the ticket that brought you $250,000 in savings by cutting its own salary and rearranging funding, or not. You can choose to support the team that fought against tuition increases, fought against fee increases, fought against mandatory health insurance as a condition of enrollment, or not. You can support the team that fought to keep parking rates the same until 2015, to stop weekend enforcement of parking, to hopefully get more student spaces behind the library, and turn the lot by the library into after 5 p.m. staff parking, or not. You can choose to support the team that brought you a second Rebel road trip, which has never been done before, or not. You can choose to support the team that has the only candidates in this race that have a relationship with the UNLV administration, the Nevada legislature, and the Board of Regents, or not. This is a very clear choice. And we can talk all day about why CSUN doesn't have more campus life. We do have more campus life. We have more campus life this year than we had last year. I understand for some people that may not be enough, and if you'd like to know why we don't have more, ask the Assistant Director of Campus Life. That is his job. But the reality is, the job I'm running for is Student Body President. This represents you on every issue you face here on this campus, with every committee we're invited to be a part of, and some that we ask to be a part of, with the legislature, in which we have relationships, with the administration, in which we have a relationship, with the Board of Regents, which you don't get mandatory health insurance removed from an agenda if you can't make a phone call to the Vice Chair of the Board of Regents, or to the Chair of the Board of Regents, or to any number of Board of Regents. These things are important. I can't stress how much to you these things are important. And these are things that I had prior to ever being in CSUN. I went to Board of Regents meetings to oppose tuition increases before ever being appointed to the Senate in CSUN, or elected to the Senate, or elected your student body president, because I care about that more than I care about my own paycheck and my own title. I turned down my salary as a senator. I reduced my pay voluntarily as a student body president, and will do so again if reelected, because the student body president at UNLV makes twice what the student body president makes at Boise State and at ASU, and it's ridiculous. And that's why I use my salary to outreach to students and take them to lunch and find out what's on their mind, because it's obscene what we pay our people here. You have a very clear choice in this election: experience or not, people who are there or not. Make the choice Wednesday and Thursday. Thank you.